All right, so this listener submission. Wow, you guys really dove deep into some fascinating territory with this one.
Yeah.
The Montauk Project.
Absolutely.
We've got articles, notes, links, and
Sure.
just this whole aura of online intrigue around it.
Right, right.
This enduring mystery.
It really is. It's one of those things that it touches on so many things that I think people are really interested in. Government secrets,
Yeah.
the limits of technology, and really the possibility that there's a lot more going on than we know.
Totally. And it's like this blend of,
Right.
Cold War history and science fiction. It really grabs you.
It does.
And at the heart of it, I mean, we're really looking at this question. Did the U.S. government actually conduct these, well, frankly, outlandish experiments at Montauk?
Yeah, I mean, that's the core of it, right? Are we talking about real breakthroughs like actual time travel, mind control, alien technology, or is this, something else? Is it a story that's kind of grown in the telling?
Right. And it seems like the shadow of another mystery kind of hangs over this whole Montauk thing.
Yeah. Which one are you thinking of?
The Philadelphia experiment,
Of course.
back in 1943.
Classic.
And even though, officially the Navy denies the whole disappearing ship thing.
Right.
The USS Eldridge.
Yeah.
And all those bizarre effects that supposedly happened to the crew.
Right.
It's that story, it's that kind of precedent that seems to fuel a lot of the Montauk believers.
I mean, it really set the stage, didn't it? The Philadelphia experiment, whether it's true or not, it put this idea out there. What if the government was messing around with stuff they didn't fully understand?
Yeah.
And what if the consequences were, well, huge?
Yeah, totally. And so fast forward a few decades,
Okay.
and we find ourselves at this place called Montauk Air Force Station.
Out on Long Island.
Way out on Long Island, right?
Beautiful spot.
And this, seemingly ordinary radar base during the Cold War. It supposedly transforms in the 60s and 70s into this top secret research facility known as Camp Hero.
Right. And this is where the story really starts to get interesting.
Yeah, totally. And the figures who really brought these events, or the alleged events, to light are Preston Nichols
Okay.
and Al Bielek.
Right. Two names you can't really avoid when you go down the Montauk rabbit hole.
Yeah, they claim to have been central to whatever happened at Camp Hero.
Right. And their stories are, well, they're pretty wild.
Okay, so let's talk about the Montauk chair, because that's kind of unavoidable.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
When you talk about Montauk,
The chair, yeah.
the claim is that this was some device, right?
Okay.
Engineered to amplify psychic abilities.
Right, so you've got this chair, and they would put people in it, and supposedly could, read their thoughts.
And not just adults, we're talking about children, too.
Yeah, that's one of the darker parts of the story, the idea that they were using kids for these experiments.
Allegedly, right?
Yeah, allegedly. But it definitely adds a creepy element to the whole thing.
Absolutely. So if we take that idea
Okay.
of psychic abilities being amplified,
Right.
it's interesting because that taps into some real anxieties people had, especially during the Cold War.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mind control, psychic warfare. It was all part of the cultural landscape back then.
Yeah.
And, we know about Van Cultra.
All right. So there is some precedent.
There is. I mean, we know the government was interested in this stuff. Not saying it's proof of what happened at Montauk, but it makes you wonder.
I wonder how far they might have gone.
Exactly.
And then, the story takes this even wilder turn with claims of actual time portals.
Yeah, this is where it goes from, science fiction to, really out there.
Nichols and Bielek say they could send people not just across distances,
Right.
but through time.
To the past, the future, yeah.
And as if that wasn't enough, some of these journeys supposedly involved encounters with aliens.
That's from Sirius, right?
The Sirius star system.
It's a lot to take in.
It's a lot.
It is. It's like they took every sci-fi trope and just crammed it into one story.
Right. And so you've got to wonder, if we're really trying to take this seriously,
Okay.
what is it in their accounts, that tries to connect these dots?
Yeah, because you've got time travel, you've got aliens,
Yeah.
and it's hard to see how those two things fit together, right?
Yeah.
Is there some internal logic to it? Or is it just and there were aliens too?
Yeah, totally. And maybe the most dramatic part of this whole story is the one about Duncan Cameron.
Okay, remind me about him.
He's the guy who supposedly time traveled to 1983.
Right.
And through some kind of sabotage of the equipment,
Yeah.
he caused the whole project to shut down
Oh.
to make things even more wild.
Yeah.
this malfunction, it supposedly unleashed a monster.
A monster? What kind of monster?
Like another dimension.
Oh, come on now. That's just crazy.
Onto the base.
A monster from another dimension. That's a new one.
So if your Tuesday was bad, at least you probably didn't have to deal with that.
That's a good point, actually.
Right. An interdimensional monster.
So this is where it really starts to feel like, they're drawing on mythology, right? Monsters, other dimensions. It's all very primal, very symbolic.
Totally. And it makes you think maybe this isn't just about technology. Maybe it's about something deeper.
Okay, I like that. Like there's a psychological element to it, too.
Totally. And so when we look at the evidence that's presented by people who believe in the Montauk Project, it's kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah, what do they have?
Well, the books.
Okay, the books by Nichols and Bielik.
The Montauk Project. Experiments in Time.
Yeah, that's like the Bible for Montauk believers, isn't it?
It really is. And they go into detail about these underground tunnels, the intense electromagnetic fields.
Right, which had all these weird effects on people.
Yeah, and then, of course, the shutdown in '83.
So the dramatic climax.
When things supposedly spiraled out of control.
But the thing is, with these books, they're personal accounts, right?
Right.
It's their version of events.
Yeah, totally.
And it's not like we have any independent confirmation of what they're saying.
Right, and then you also have these anecdotal accounts.
Okay, from people who live near Montauk.
Yeah, people who recall strange noises.
Right, what? Like what?
Unexplained lights in the sky.
Okay, yeah.
And this persistent feeling of, restricted access.
Yeah, around Camp Hero.
Yeah, even after it was decommissioned.
Yeah, so like an eerie vibe, even after the military was gone.
Yeah, but, those accounts, too.
Yeah.
They're interesting.
Sure.
But they're not exactly proof.
I mean, memory's a funny thing, right?
Yeah.
People can be convinced they saw or heard things, especially when there's already this big story circulating.
Totally.
So it's hard to take those accounts as, hard evidence.
Right, and then there's the whole thing with those declassified documents.
Okay, the M-Culture stuff.
Yeah, M-Culture, and those don't offer any proof of time travel or anything like that.
Right.
But they do show that the government was willing to, experiment.
To push the boundaries.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, with mind control and sensory manipulation.
It's pretty creepy stuff when you think about it.
It is, and so some people look at that and say, well, if they were willing to do that, what else might they have been up to?
It kind of sets a precedent.
Yeah.
It makes the more outlandish claims of Montauk, well, maybe not believable, but at least not totally impossible.
Yeah, maybe they were just that far ahead of everyone else.
Right, and that's the thing about historical context. It can really shape how we interpret these stories.
Totally.
Like if we didn't know about M-Culture, maybe the Montauk Project would sound even crazier.
Yeah, maybe.
But knowing that the government was actually doing these, ethically questionable experiments,
Yeah.
it just makes you wonder, what else were they hiding?
And visually, you can't really ignore that massive sage radar dish.
Oh yeah, that thing's iconic.
It's still standing at Camp Hero State Park.
It's like something out of a movie.
It really is. It has this, imposing science fiction quality to it.
Yeah, and it just feeds into that whole image of a secret, high-tech facility.
Absolutely. But, of course, there's the skeptical side of things.
Right, the people who say, hold on a second, let's be realistic here.
And they make some really valid points.
Like what?
Well, for one, the lack of any hard evidence.
Yeah, I mean, no time machines, no alien blueprints, nothing concrete.
Right, nothing that you can point to and say, see, this is proof.
Right, and in science, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Totally, and skeptics also point to the backgrounds of Nichols and Bielik themselves.
Right, like what are their credentials?
Nichols was an electrician.
Okay.
Not a scientist.
Right, not someone you'd expect to be, inventing time travel devices.
Yeah, and Bielik's accounts of his past.
Right, his timeline.
They've been shown to contain some inconsistencies.
So, red flags start to pop up.
Yeah, maybe these guys are embellishing things a bit.
Maybe, or maybe it's just, faulty memory, or who knows, maybe they're intentionally making stuff up.
Right, and of course the U.S. Navy's official stance is that Montauk Air Force Station was just that.
It's just a radar station.
A radar station.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, it served its purpose during the Cold War. They decommissioned it in '81.
And now it's a state park.
Yeah, open to the public.
So case closed, according to the Navy.
Right, but it's not really that simple, is it?
No, I mean, there's still this lingering question of why all the secrecy? If it was just a radar station, why all the hush-hush?
Totally. And so if we move away from, the more far-out explanations,
Okay.
what other possibilities are there?
Yeah. What else could explain the Montauk stories?
Well, one theory is that it was a Cold War psyop.
Okay, a psychological operation.
Yeah, meant to disinform the Soviets
Ah, interesting.
by making them think we had some super advanced technology.
So like a bluff, basically.
Kinda.
A way to scare them, make them think we were further ahead than we actually were.
Yeah, and we know that intelligence agencies during the Cold War,
Right.
they were into that kind of thing.
Disinformation, spreading rumors. It was all part of the game.
Absolutely.
So it's not a crazy idea.
Not at all.
I mean, the Montauk Project, if you think about it, it's a pretty effective story.
It is. It's a story that's really stuck around.
Exactly.
Another possibility is that there were some real experiments happening at Montauk.
Okay. But maybe not as sensational as time travel and aliens.
Yeah, maybe it was advanced radar, electronic warfare, or even early attempts at psychological warfare.
Right, things that were actually within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, and maybe some of those experiments went wrong.
Oh,
or had
right.
unintended consequences.
And that's what sparked the rumors.
Yeah, and those rumors got twisted and amplified over time.
So, like a kernel of truth.
Yeah.
But then it just snowballed into something much bigger.
And then, there's the whole UFO angle.
Ah, yes. Got to bring in the UFOs.
Right. Some believers connect the Montauk Project to those UFO sightings near Montauk in the 80s.
Right, and this is where they bring in the aliens, right?
The Greys.
The classic gray aliens.
Yeah, supposedly collaborating on this advanced technology.
So it's like they're already pushing the boundaries of science.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, and by the way, aliens are involved too.
And that's where, for a lot of people, it just becomes too much.
Yeah, it crosses the line into, pure fantasy.
And then, of course, there's the simplest explanation.
Which is
it's a hoax.
the whole thing.
The whole thing. A story made up by Nichols and Delic.
For what purpose?
Maybe for attention.
Okay.
Maybe to make some money.
Yeah, selling books, giving talks.
Right. Or maybe they just liked telling a good story.
And it's a good story, I'll give them that.
It is. And it clearly resonated with people. I mean, look at the cultural impact.
Yeah, I mean, Stranger
People are
Things.
hugely influenced by the Montauk legend.
Absolutely. So even if it's a hoax that's had a real impact.
Absolutely.
It's captured people's imaginations.
And even today, people visit Camp Hero.
Yeah, looking for clues.
Looking for those locked bunkers, the fences, the rumored tunnels.
Like they're on a real-life scavenger hunt.
It is. It's like this weird tourist attraction.
Yeah, testament to the power of the story.
Totally. And you have to wonder, how much does the government's silence and the restricted access to parts of the base contribute to the ongoing speculation?
It's like if there's nothing to hide, why not just open everything up?
Right, exactly.
But of course, that would probably just fuel more conspiracy theories.
Probably.
People would say they're hiding something even bigger.
So, at the end of the day, the Montauk Project is this really intriguing blend of Cold War anxieties, science fiction.
And good old-fashioned human curiosity.
Yeah, it's a story that really taps into something deep in our collective psyche.
It makes you think, what are we really capable of?
Mm-hmm.
And what's really going on out there?
Exactly. And so we circle back to the big question.
The question we started with.
Did something truly extraordinary happen at Montauk?
Something that defies explanation.
Or is this just one heck of a captivating story?
A testament to the power of our imaginations.
And I guess the answer depends on who you ask.
And what you're willing to believe.
Yeah, we've laid out the information, the claims, the counter-arguments.
The doubts, the possibility.
It's up to you to decide what you make of it.
That's the beauty of a good mystery.
Exactly.
It keeps you thinking.
And so here's a final thought for you to ponder.
Okay, I'm listening.
What is it about a story like the Montauk Project that continues to capture our imaginations?
That's a good one.
What is it about these mysteries, these conspiracies, that we find so compelling?
I think there's a lot to unpack there.
I think so, too.
A lot to think about.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Looking forward to it.
For another deep dive into the unknown.